So I wanted to take a minute just to shoot a short video on basically my story. Why did I decide to be a chiropractor? So let's go back to the beginning. My family, I didn't come from a family of chiropractors. I didn't even come from a family that went to chiropractors with any kind of regularity or anything like that. So obviously something significant had to happen to make me want to become one. So I guess I was probably a freshman in high school, and I can't remember whether it was a church or a choir ski trip, but either way, we were skiing, and at the end of the slope there was a little jump, and we were hitting it at the end of every little run. And of course it was the last run of the day. I hit the jump and I literally came down on top of my head, and I mean right on top of my head. I may have bounced, and immediately I couldn't hardly move my neck. I mean, it was just instant pain. I'd never had anything like that, so I was pretty concerned. So I went to the leader of the trip. They took me to the first aid place there at the ski slopes, and they didn't seem too worried about it. Evidently they see people fall on their head every day. So no x-rays, no nothing like that. So we drive back home, and it just persisted, kept going. So Mom took me to the medical doctor, and we got painkillers, muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories, that type of stuff. Still no x-rays, and it just persisted. It kept going, and I was an athlete back in high school, so we had to get back on the field. So I was starting to get pretty desperate because I still had very little range of motion. So eventually, after a couple of months of this, my mom, and moms are always right, by the way, so remember that, but my mom said, you know, I went to a chiropractor once, you ought to give it a try. And I would have done anything at that point. So even though I didn't know anything about chiropractic, we set up the appointment and got going. So I show up, he does x-rays. Turns out I had a compression fracture of one of the vertebrae, which sounds terrible, but it's still workable. And then we got going, and literally I'd been suffering for a couple of months. After just a couple of weeks, you'd have never known that I had any problems at all. No pain, nothing. So I was pretty powerful. And then one day we're driving around, I think the next year or two down the road, and my buddy from high school is always coming up with things that we ought to be when we grew up. And one day he said, you know, we ought to be chiropractors. And I looked at him, and for once I agreed with what he said. So he went on to be a football coach, and here I am being a chiropractor. That led me down the road. And I would say, you know, I graduated chiropractic school in 1998 after several years of school. And I can say that not everybody's perfect fit for us, but the majority are. And you know, I think that we've made a big difference in a lot of lives. I think it's important, it's a strength to know your weaknesses. And one of my weaknesses was blood and guts. So I knew I couldn't go and stitch people up and surgery or, you know, stuff like that. I'm just not built that way. So chiropractic was definitely my path to still make a difference in people's lives, and you know, who knows, hopefully make the world a little bit better, at least my piece of the world. So that's my story. Again, I'm Dr. Jeff Williams with Creekstone Integrated Care here in Amarillo, Texas. Our number is 355-3000. Give us a holler.